Mom, if Dad's not around, the company falls to me. My brother's words hung in the air, leaving me in disbelief. Our mother, Patricia, responded matter-of-factly, "Well, obviously Daniel. Plus, if you do the math, there's a sizable inheritance in Plan B with Dad's life insurance. We could live large for a while. It's like a bonus, huh? Got to thank our absent dad." I felt a surge of anger building inside me. What was wrong with these people? This was unforgivable. I couldn't let them have their way. Just as I was about to explode, I received a call from Dad in the hospital. Let me backtrack a bit. My name is Christopher. I'm a 33-year-old architect working at a design firm. I moved out of our family home and now live alone in a nearby condo. Being single can be a little lonely, but I love my job and lead a fulfilling life. Today, I had a day off and plans to meet with my dad, James. "Ah, Christopher, how have you been?" Dad showed up for a meetup with his usual warm smile. "Dad, long time no see. Have you lost some weight?" "Running a business must be tough," I remarked. "Work keeps me busy, but I'm doing well. Let's get going." I occasionally meet up with Dad like this to catch up over a meal. Today, Dad invited me to join him for some volunteer work at a small children's care facility on the outskirts of town. We were greeted by Mr. Smith, the friendly elderly director. Dad and Mr. Smith were chatting away warmly. Turns out Dad grew up in this facility. After leaving it, he put himself through college and started his own architecture firm. Even without any relatives to rely on, he made it on his own efforts, and I've always admired him for that. On his day off, Dad often invites me to volunteer at the facility with him. Since we both have backgrounds in architecture, we can repair furniture and playground equipment. "James, Christopher, you've helped a lot today," Mr. Smith thanked us as we were leaving. I felt good about making a difference, and for Dad, visiting Mr. Smith, who's like a father to him, must be important too. As we walked side by side pondering where to grab a bite, a sleek black luxury car pulled up next to us. The window rolled down, and out popped Mom driving the car with my brother Daniel. Well, look who it is, back from the care facility again, are we?" Mom's tone was cutting. "Mom, it's embarrassing to have a dad without parents. Can we stop this already?" I pleaded. "Let's go," my brother spoke, chomping on his gum. I wanted to retort, to tell him that he should be the one feeling embarrassed. An adult with no stable job and dyed hair, but I held back. There was no point in saying anything to these people. It would be a waste. "Daniel and I are going to dinner. You two can grab some fast food, and don't forget to fold the laundry, all right?" Patricia instructed. Dad responded with a simple, "Understood." And without another word, Mom rolled up the car window, and they drove off. Dad and I just watched them go, saying nothing. Mom and my brother looked down on Dad, belittling him at every turn. Honestly, Mom might be beautiful on the outside, but that's about it. The reason they can do all this is that they're basically living off Dad's income. They've been trash-talking him for as long as I can remember, saying he's a deadbeat from an orphanage, that he has no ambition or excitement in his life. They probably only see Dad as a wallet that listens to their every demand. What's worse, my brother Daniel eats all of this up and joins in on making fun of Dad. Our family has 2 kids, but Mom has always lavished her love only on Daniel. She's pretty much ignored me, giving Daniel whatever he wants whenever he wants. Thanks to that, Daniel still clings to Mom like a child, even in his 30s. He still calls her Mommy and lets her dictate even what he wears and eats. When I heard that Mom accompanied him to every driving lesson, I was floored. "Dad, isn't it hard living with those 2? I asked my dad that question. "I'm used to it. Besides, they're still family. I have to do what I can," Dad said in a lonely voice before heading back to the house he shares with Mom and Daniel. All I could do was watch. A month passed, and I got a call from Mom saying that Dad had collapsed, so I rushed to the hospital. "Dad, what on earth happened to you?" I asked, seeing him looking even more fragile than a month ago. I received the devastating news. After undergoing some tests, my dad had cancer and it was advanced. According to the doctors, he had only about 3 months to live, give or take. It was a shocking blow, especially considering he was only in his 60s. Even my mom, typically composed, was visibly shaken. "Why did you let things get to this point?" Mom's voice trembled with emotion as she addressed Dad, her concern evident. "Because you and Daniel have been pushing Dad too hard. You know he's been stressed out," I interjected, unable to hold back my frustration. "How dare you speak to your parents like that? You're nothing like Daniel," Mom shot back defensively. "And what is Daniel doing at a time like this? Off gambling again?" I couldn't help but accuse. While Mom and I were arguing, Dad spoke up quietly, trying to diffuse the tension. Both of you stop. I'm fine. Go home for today, he insisted, his voice barely audible. Feeling remorseful, I left the hospital room. But between my worries for Dad's health and the shock of his prognosis, sleep eluded me that night. Determined to support poor Dad, I took on the responsibility of bringing him a change of clothes and doing his shopping as he requested. But neither Mom nor my brother lifted a finger to help. Despite their indifference, I wanted to make Dad's time as comfortable as possible. During breaks from work, I would pop into his hospital room and take care of him. This routine continued for 2 months until one day when I went back to my parents' house to gather some of Dad's belongings. As I entered the living room, I overheard Mom and my brother conversing. "Mommy, once Dad is gone, the business is all mine, right?" Daniel's words stunned me, prompting me to listen more closely. "That's not a given, Daniel, but if you do the math, there should be around $2 million in inheritance," Mom replied casually. "Wow, that's awesome. Maybe I should buy another car," Daniel exclaimed eagerly. "Why not? You'll be the company president, so you should drive a nice car. Thanks to his life insurance, we can live a little lavishly for a while. It's like a bonus. Gotta thank Dad for not being around," Mom remarked, her words sending a surge of anger coursing through me. What kind of trash are these people? Silently, I felt the weight of their callousness and greed. It was unforgivable. I couldn't stand by and let them have their way. Just as I was about to unleash my anger, I received a message from Dad. "Christopher, can you come to my hospital room alone?" Despite the storm of emotions within me, I managed to contain them and went to see my dad. He had lost even more weight recently, and his complexion looked bad. "Christopher, thank you for always being there," he said weakly. "What are you talking about, Dad? Just tell me what I can do to help," I replied, trying to maintain composure as I sat next to his bed. "There's something important I need to talk to you about," Dad began. I listened quietly, holding back the tears as he spoke. "Visiting hours are almost over, so I'm going to head out. But about what we discussed, Dad, just focus on taking care of yourself for now," I interrupted, feeling the weight of the situation. Thank you, Christopher. See you later," Dad said softly. In the end, that was the last conversation I had with my dad. He took a turn for the worse shortly after and passed away the next day. I held his inniated hand in the hospital room and cried. My mom and brother also put on a show of tears, but this time, things got tough. Mom was technically in charge of the funeral, but of course she didn't lift a finger. Instead, she showed up at the funeral all dolled up in makeup and tried to cut corners on the costs. "He doesn't even have any relatives. Why not keep it simple?" she remarked callously. "Dad's co-workers and business associates are coming to the funeral. Don't embarrass us with that kind of talk," I retorted, feeling a surge of frustration. Today, while getting his necktie tied by Mom, Daniel chimed in, "Just do what Mom says. Don't waste money on a dad like that, Christopher." "Daniel, just be quiet. If it's about money, I'll handle it. At least let me give Dad a proper send-off," I insisted, feeling a sense of duty. So I ended up taking charge of the entire funeral. It seemed Dad was well loved by many people. Lots of folks came to pay their respects, which made me really happy. About a week had passed since the funeral ended when Mom spoke up. "Now that we're a family of 3, finally got that person out of the picture, now the $2 million inheritance is all ours, right, Daniel? And Dad's company, too. Man, I'm finally going to be the boss," Daniel added eagerly. "Listen up, Christopher. You better give up your inheritance, got it?" Mom demanded sternly. Just after the funeral had ended, they were already talking about this stuff, annoying me to no end. I replied calmly, "Dad had already arranged all the inheritance matters with the lawyer. I have the contact details." My brother, surprised, exclaimed, "What? Why didn't you say that sooner? Call the lawyer right now." "That's right, Christopher. Hurry up," my mom urged. So I dialed the number on the business card that Dad had given me. Not long after, the lawyer arrived, a woman in her mid-30s named Attorney Williams. "I'm Attorney Williams. I've been authorized by James to handle matters concerning the inheritance. I'm very sorry for your loss," she said, shaking our hands as we greeted the lawyer. "Wow, I thought lawyers were all old dudes. You're quite the looker. Got a boyfriend?" Daniel asked. "Oh, Daniel, do you like her? Mommy prefers someone younger, not old," I scolded, feeling irritated. "Thank you for coming all this way. Please come in," Mom intervened, trying to maintain decorum. We ushered Miss Williams into the room and listened to what she had to say. "Let me explain. First of all, concerning the company, James had told me before he passed that it would be transferred to an acquaintance's company. I've been proceeding with the paperwork." "What? What does that mean?" I was supposed to become the CEO. I've heard nothing of the sort, my brother exclaimed, his voice rising in frustration. For the sake of the employees, the company will be merging with a trusted and skilled company that your father was fond of. The other company has already agreed, so there's nothing that can be done, Attorney Williams explained calmly. Darn outsider, darn it! My mom hurriedly chimed in, trying to soothe the situation. Calm down, Daniel. The inheritance is ours, right? It should be around $2 million, shouldn't it? My brother asked hopefully. No, there's nothing like that. The company was not doing as well as you think, and any remaining assets have been used to prepare for the company's transfer, Attorney Williams clarified matter-of-factly. What? What about the money? There should be $2 million coming in. Mommy, what's going on? My brother demanded, panic evident in his voice. Patricia has received a substantial life insurance payout. She has left a will expressing the desire to gift that money, Attorney Williams revealed. What are you talking about? We've already spent that on a new car, my mom exclaimed in shock. James had canceled all policies before he passed. All I know is that the money was used up, Attorney Williams answered honestly. What? Where did all the money go? Before he died, darn it? Was he planning to leave us without a dime? My brother exclaimed in disbelief. I watched as Miss Williams left, and my mom and brother lost their composure as she departed. She said it's tough, isn't it? All I could manage was a tight-lipped smile in return, looking up at the night sky. I couldn't help but recall the last conversation I had with my father while we walked. Christopher, would you take over the company if I die? There might not be much in assets, but I should be able to leave you at least the insurance money. There should be enough of that, Dad had said. What are you talking about, Dad? I had replied, feeling a lump form in my throat. You were the only one in the family who was kind to me. I wanted to leave something for you at least, Dad. I respect you for building the company from scratch with your own hard work. I want to make it on my own too. I don't need the company or the insurance money, but if there's any inheritance left, I want you to use it as you wish. I'll help in any way I can. Christopher, thank you, Dad had responded, his voice filled with gratitude. Walking along, lost in my thoughts, I realized I had arrived at the facility. Despite it being night, Mr. Smith was in the yard. When he saw me, he ran over in tears. Christopher, James passed away so suddenly. He told me not to come to the funeral, but actually, Mr. Smith, my dad was grateful for both you and the facility. I just found out too a little while ago. James made a large donation to the facility, a really large one. Now we can buy the things the kids need. We might even be able to renovate. Thank you, I explained, my own voice trembling with emotion. But I wish James could have lived. I wish he could have been happy, Mr. Smith murmured, wiping away his tears. While comforting a tearful Mr. Smith, I found myself crying too, looking up at the starry sky. I whispered in my heart, Dad, you did it. You really did it. And a few months later, I had been meeting with lawyer Miss Williams periodically to navigate the complex legalities of transferring the company and settling the estate. This meeting was to be our last. After expressing my gratitude for her support, Miss Williams offered her condolences once more, comforting me in a considerate manner. As I saw off Miss Williams, I couldn't help but contemplate that I might never see her beautiful face again. She had been such a kind and gracious person. Just then, as I waved goodbye, a familiar car pulled up beside Miss Williams, and out jumped my brother wielding a metal bat. Hey, what the heck are you doing? I yelled, quickly tackling my brother to the ground. Shut up! Let go of me! He shouted, his face turning red as I held him down. Were you trying to attack Miss Williams? What's going on? I demanded, shocked by his actions. Because of her, I didn't get the company or the money. It's her fault, damn it! My brother ranted. That's ridiculous! This isn't Miss Williams' fault! I retorted, incredulous at his accusation. Shielding a trembling Miss Williams, I called the police. Inside my brother's car, not just a bat, but also a rope and a stun gun were found, clearly weapons. He was swiftly arrested. When our mother found out, she fumed, "You'd send Daniel to jail? Your own family, how heartless." I replied calmly, "I no longer consider you or him family. My only family was my late dad. I'm cutting ties with both of you." Mom continued to rage, but I ignored her and cooperated fully with the police investigation. I later found out that my brother had also been repeatedly harassing Miss Williams online, making vulgar comments and slandering her. Threats had even been made, and the police were in the process of identifying him. My brother was sentenced to jail for his attempted attack on Miss Williams. She also sued him in civil court for defamation, and he was ordered to pay damages. Please take every penny he has if that'll make him reflect on his actions. I'm truly sorry for all this. I apologized to Miss Williams. Upon my apology, Miss Williams gave a faint smile and said, I'll do just that. Thank you for saving me from a dangerous situation. From now on, I hope you at least find happiness, Christopher. Several months later, when spring arrived today, I found myself at Shura Garden. But it wasn't for volunteering, it was for a business meeting. Thanks to the funding from my father's donation, the aging facility was planning a renovation. Mr. Smith had approached me for the architectural design. Initially, I declined, citing my inexperience, but Mr. Smith was unyielding. James always proudly said, Christopher will become an exceptional architect. He's already surpassed me. We can do this because of James. Mr. Smith insisted, I'd really like for you to take on this project, Christopher. With sentiments like that, how could I say no? I wanted to create a wonderful building that brought even a small amount of happiness to the kids and Mr. Smith. I'm sure my dad would have been proud of that. As for my brother, well, he hasn't changed. Even after his sentencing, he's become even more irresponsible. Though he avoided jail due to probation, he still begs our mom for money daily, starts drinking in the afternoon, and gambles away what he borrows. My mom is being pushed around by my brother every day. The large house we lived in, thanks to my dad, along with the car bought with insurance money, were sold to pay for Miss Williams' compensation and my brother's bail. Now it seems they live together in an old apartment. A friend told me she's lost her beauty and looks more like an old woman now. She brought this upon herself, but I hope she at least reflects on how she treated my dad poorly before he passed away and raised my brother to be such a mess. One last thing. I'm going to marry Miss Williams, the lawyer, soon. She told me in confidence that she felt attracted to me after I saved her from my brother's violent behavior. She's a bit on the serious side, but I really love her for her kindness and dependability. From here on, I aim to work hard and be like my dad, building a warm and loving home. Let's conclude the story briefly. Despite the challenges and hardships faced, I strive to honor my father's legacy by building a warm and loving home. As my brother continues down a troubled path, I find solace in my upcoming marriage to Miss Williams, a symbol of hope and redemption. With determination and love, I embark on a new chapter, inspired by my father's values and guided by the promise of a brighter future. Thanks for watching. How did you find the story? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more awesome stories like this. Your feedback and support mean a lot.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. "Take care." That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. "I will do my best." Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. "Did you not hear what I said?" "I'm sorry." I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit any time," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. "Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize." Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed, I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry." Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.